Hi everyone! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Sergi, and for today's tutorial, I am going to discuss something that you need to be familiar in quantitative method, and that is about the types of data. So class, why it is important to know the type of quantitative data that we are handling? It is a must for you as a researcher to know the type of data that you will be handling, since later on when you are going to analyze your data, this will lead you easily to determine what statistical treatment you can use in interpreting your data. On my next vlog tutorial, I will discuss about the basic statistical treatment that you could use in analyzing your quantitative data. So what are the types of data that we usually encounter in a quantitative undertaking? These are the following: nominal data, ordinal data, interval data, and ratio data. Later, we are going to discuss each type of data, and I will also give an example for better understanding. Let us start first with nominal data. Nominal data have no order and thus only gives names or labels to various categories. For example, the variable names gender, ethnicity, and religion are holding nominal type of data. The values, which could be either 1, 2, or 3, has no order. The category it's holding could be shuffled, since the values are just given certain names or labels to various categories a variable could hold. So, meaning class, out from these examples, we could say that just because the value of the category female is 1 does not mean that when it comes to gender, female is lesser compared to male, which is a value of 2, or male is more dominant than female. Note that the values 1 and 2 here are just labels for the categories female and male respectively. Now, let's proceed to ordinal data. Ordinal data have order, but the interval between measurements is not meaningful. This means, class, that ordinal variables allow us researchers to make statements about more or less, stronger or weaker, higher or lower. Like nominal data, ordinal data in a data set will often be assigned numerical values for certain responses. However, for ordinal data, these numbers carry meaning. Thus, such numbers cannot be reordered arbitrarily, or you cannot just shuffle or reassign these numbers. For example, Likert scale is a popular ordinal data example. For a question such as, please express the importance of internet connection in order for you to complete your modules. A Likert scale will have the following options, which are coded to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 numbers. 1 is lesser than 2, which is lesser than 3, which is lesser than 4, which in turn is lesser than 5. Ordinal data is thus a collection of ordinal variables. For instance, if you have variables in a particular order, low, medium, high, they can be represented as ordinal data. These are the two important factors to consider for ordinal data. So students, you have to note this. There are multiple terms that represent order, such as high, higher, highest, or satisfied, dissatisfied, extremely dissatisfied. The difference between variables is not uniform. Now, moving on to interval data. Interval data have meaningful intervals between measurements, but there is no true starting point 0. What do we mean by 0 as starting point? 0 point indicates an absence of what is being measured. Scores in basketball game are actual numbers and have a true 0 point, so such is not an interval data. The scores in basketball game is holding another type of data, which is ratio, and we are going to discuss it on the next slide. So what is an example of an interval data? A very clear example is a temperature. Temperature is an example of interval data. Consider we have the variable named temperature, which has a value of 0, which is in degrees Celsius. Temperature here is an interval data because 0 degrees Celsius is not no temperature. What I mean is, when we say 0 degrees Celsius, it doesn't mean no temperature at all, but it means the approximate freezing or melting point of water. So 0 here is a no true starting point. Thus, temperature is an interval data. Now, let us move on to the last type of quantitative data, the ratio data. Ratio data are actually interval data, but with a true 0 point. When it comes to the level of measurement or scales for measuring a variable, ratio data have the highest level of measurement. So again, temperature is not ratio because 0 degrees is not no temperature. But your exam score is ratio because 0 point is truly no point at all. Here are some examples. Age in years with a value of 18, so he or she is 18 years old. Income in pesos with a value of 10,000, so an employee has an income of 10,000 per month. Number of children with a value of 0, and that is a true 0 point. 0 means no children. Ratio has equal intervals. Each year adds 1 unit of age. Each peso adds 1 peso of income, and each child adds 1 unit. Now, let's have some exercises if you understand my discussion about the types of data. A researcher decides to collapse the class income variable into the following categories: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with the given ranges of income, such as 0, so the income is 0 to 10,000, and so on and so forth, having 60,001 higher. So this measure is a what type of scale? The answer is, yes, the answer is ordinal. The values listed have order. The numerical values assigned carry meaning, and such income values cannot be just reordered or be simply reassigned. So, given this measure of class income, is the following statement valid or invalid? An individual whose rank is 4 or 40,001 to 50,000 earns twice as much as an individual whose rank is 2, 20,001 to 30,000. So what is your answer? Valid or invalid? The answer is invalid. The interval between measurements is not meaningful or that exact or has equal intervals. We can just make statements that the income is more or less. Why? Because it might be that though my income value could be 2 or ranging 20,001 to 30,000, but what if my exact income value is actually 25,000? And that does not make your income directly twice to me. In case your rank is 4, let us just say 45,000 if it is your exact income. Now, let's proceed. Let's have this another exercise. Political affiliation is measured as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So with a value of 0, Republican, 1, Democrat, 2, Independent, 3, Reform Party, 4, Green Party, 5, Socialist, and 6, other. So this measure is a blank scale. So what is the scale of measurement in this particular example? The answer is... Yes, the answer is nominal. Yes, because the values 0 to 6 here has no order. The values here as categorized could be shuffled since they are just names or labels of political affiliation. So to continue, given this measure of political affiliation, is the following statement valid or invalid? So the statement is socialist. What's unang value sa socialist? 5. Have a stronger political affiliation than independents with a value of 2. What is your answer? Is it valid or invalid? The answer is invalid. Again, the numbers here are just labels. It does not bear any weight of values. Now proceed to another example. So let's have this. A researcher hypothesizes that TV habits will affect grades in school. She measures TV habits as the number of hours an individual watches TV in a week. This measure is a blank scale. So what is this type of measurement? Kung saan ang type of data na ginahandle niya? The answer is ratio. The value of the variable here should and could have a true 0-point value. This means that if a value is 0, then the student did not watch TV in a week, even an hour. Now, given this measure of TV habits, is the following statement valid or invalid? Because this variable is, since you know already that it is ratio, there are an infinite number of values for the variable. Is it valid or invalid? The answer is invalid. The value could not be infinite number because a day comprised 24 hours only. So in a week, the maximum value should only be 168 hours or 24 times 7 days. Now, last example. A researcher measures juvenile delinquency by asking juveniles if they have ever engaged in any of the following acts. So, smoke pot, stole property worth less than $5, stole property worth greater than $5, skip school, hit a person with a closed fist. Now, for each action the juvenile admits to, he or she receives 1 point. For example, if someone said they had smoked pot and skipped school, they receive a score of 2. If they also admitted to hitting someone, they receive a score of 3, etc., etc. So the scale then is 0, 0 acts of delinquency, 1, 1 act of delinquency, 2, 2 acts of delinquency, 3, 4, 5, 5 acts of delinquency. So this measure is a what type of scale or level of measurement? Or what should be the type of data nga dapat handle ani? The answer is... Okay, the answer is interval. The 0 here is not a true point. 0, 0 here means that he or she did not commit or engage juvenile act based on the list provided. Now, given our scale of juvenile delinquency, is the following statement valid or invalid? An individual with a score of 3 on this scale has engaged in more delinquency than an individual with a score of 2. Now, actually, class, the answer here is quite troublesome. Actually, for this particular example, so if we are going to base only on the listed acts, we could say that the statement is valid. So this holds true to the question recently asked if it is an interval or ratio, wherein we answer that it is interval. It could be interval or ratio, which would actually depend on how we will operationally use the terms defined in the study. That is why it is really important to define operationally the terms which you think could bring confusion to the readers. But then again, there could be another juvenile acts not listed which could be committed by an individual, and that makes the statement invalid. Okay, so that's all for the types of data. I hope you learned something today. Thank you very much for listening and watching my tutorial videos. Please support me by subscribing and sharing my video tutorials to your friends. If you have suggestions for my next vlog tutorial, do not hesitate to comment down below. So God bless you everyone. This is Sergi. Until next time.